Hi, my name is Amelia Tarani, and I'm a senior from Vernon Hills High School. When you hear the saying mental health, what are the first thoughts that come to your mind? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. The Google definition of mental health is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. Mental health has only increased over the years. Being someone who has struggled with mental health issues like anxiety and depression, I know how easy it is to feel alone, especially in a pandemic world where our social interactions are very limited. Statistics show that there has been a 28.7% increase in anxiety amongst teens in the country, and a 23.6% increase in depression amongst teens in the country. And lastly, a 31.4% increase in both anxiety and depression amongst teens in the country. As you can see, mental illness is only increasing. So that's where my passion project comes in. My impact project has to do with mental health advocacy. I will be hosting 4 mental health workshops on Zoom discussing mental illness and how we can take steps forward to normalizing it's okay to not be okay, and to normalize it's okay to talk about mental health in our communities. At my first session, we talked about mental health statistics and how big of a role social media plays in people's mental health. We had a 45-minute session, and the feedback I've been getting has been really positive and super encouraging. Mental illness is not something easy to talk about, but it's about taking the steps to normalizing discussion about it. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's okay to not be okay. Thank you so much.
The Midrash states that at the time that God created Adam, the first human, he took him and toured him amongst all the trees of the Garden of Eden. He said, "See my works, how pleasant and fine they are, and all that I have created for you. Set your mind not to ruin and destroy my world, for if you ruin it, there is none who can repair it for you." There are many instances in Jewish texts, especially in the Torah, where God and the rabbis call for environmental protection. Yet, for a religion that has long been a trailblazer of social justice, there seems to be a disconnect between Jewish values and environmental action by the Jewish community. It often seems that the Jewish community is turning a blind eye toward the environmental destruction that surrounds us. That is, a heating planet, rising sea levels, droughts, water and air pollution, and emerging health crises. Unfortunately, our community's lethargy in addressing these problems has dire consequences. And one of the ways we contribute to the environmental crisis is through a lack of environmental concern at Jewish community gatherings. We come from a tradition where community gatherings are common, and food is often a central element. But these occasions generate significant amounts of waste, thereby contributing to the current environmental crisis. That's why I decided to create Being Green, Embracing Our Jewish Roots, a guide for Jewish spaces to become more environmentally friendly. Through extensive research and interviews of experts in the environmental field, I put together a guide in which I highlight the Jewish imperative to be environmentally conscious, outline suggestions for bringing sustainability to Jewish spaces through composting, recycling, donating leftover food, and forming green teams to spearhead sustainability efforts, and provide tips for introducing environmental action projects in the community. This guide is not enough. In order to induce real change, this needs to be a community effort. I'm hoping each of you will support me in this endeavor. Preventing a global environmental crisis may seem daunting and overwhelming, but even small changes make a big difference. So reach out to your synagogues, schools, camps, youth groups, community centers, and other Jewish spaces and encourage them to lead the charge. By embracing Jewish environmental values, together, we can forge a new path for our community. I hope you'll be part of the change. Thank you.
My name is Claire. I'm a senior at Deerfield High School, and I identify as female and as someone who loves STEM. And it gets difficult to have these identities when I am one of only 3 or 4 women in STEM classes at school. But the importance of gender representation in STEM goes beyond the numbers of students. It goes to the way we teach. Because I know how excited I still get every time I hear about a female scientist I'd never heard of who was or is making amazing discoveries. And I know this is because in class I'm learning new concepts every year, yet the only people I learn about who are behind the brilliant world-changing ideas are white men, when I know there were women behind the scenes, or even in the front lines and left without credit. For my project, I knew I wanted to create ways for young kids to learn the exact same STEM concepts they would be learning otherwise, but I want them to do it while being introduced to the women behind the ideas, not because they are women, but because they help to change the world. Other people should care about gender representation in STEM because without it, we are discouraging young girls from going into these fields when they don't see representation of themselves. Without these students, we are missing out on genius young minds becoming researchers and scientists in the future and changing the world. There's one simple way for community members to help this issue, and that is by teaching. I hope that community members will see my lesson plans and use them in their classrooms and even in their homes. The goal is not to change what is being taught, but how it is being taught. So the same STEM topics are being taught in the same ways as always, but while being introduced in a way that inspires all students.
Hi, my name is Emma Shaimovich, and I'm a senior at Niles North High School. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Peace upon us and upon the whole world. The Hebrew and Arabic blended in harmony as I sang with the Jerusalem Youth Chorus last year while studying abroad in Israel. This unique program brings together Palestinian and Israeli youth to sing and engage in dialogue about peace. There, I met Allah, a Palestinian who joined the choir in secret. Despite not knowing Hebrew and facing rejection from his community, Allah was able to find common ground with his Israeli peers. I thought of my own grandfather who survived the Holocaust as a child and went on to fight in 3 Arab-Israeli wars. He never knew the benefit of building bridges with his neighbors and instead lived with violence and trauma. Upon my return to the US and seeing all around me escalating racial and political unrest, I knew I wanted to continue this critical work of pursuing peace. After being selected as one of Springboard Chicago's 18 Under 18 honorees, I was excited to dedicate my impact project to this cause. Combining my passion for music, Israel, and social justice, I organized a virtual benefit concert to support the Jerusalem Youth Chorus. The concert will feature many talented Jewish musicians singing songs about peace, inclusion, and equality. We will also hear from an Israeli and a Palestinian team who will share their experience in the chorus and how it has impacted their lives. I invite you all to join me at the benefit concert on May 2nd, 2021 at 1 p.m. Central. Thanks to the legacy of my grandfather, Allah, and the Jerusalem Youth Chorus, and the Springboard Chicago community, I am inspired to do what I can do to bring diverse groups together to find common ground for the greater good. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jaden Fogel, and I'm a junior at New Trier High School. Following the Black Lives Matter movement over this past year inspired me to create a project that compares anti-Semitism and racism. I believe it is important to recognize that Jews and people of color can have similar struggles and that they overlap at times due to their being Jews of color, and that it is necessary for us to work toward creating allies within these communities. I worked with Rabbi Newman Kamen, the rabbi at Am Yisrael Congregation, and Mr. Sherman, the head of school at Am Yisrael Congregation, to create a one-day curriculum for grades 3 through 7 that focuses on racism and anti-racism through a Jewish lens, explores how these topics connect to their personal lives and the world around them, and provides them with the resources, if they wish, to take action and get involved. My vision for the future is that my program will outlive my time at Am Yisrael Congregation for years to come. I've created this program to have the flexibility to change throughout the years as society evolves, while allowing it to maintain and achieve its goals of teaching students to be anti-racists. It is my hope that the curriculum will expand to include 1st through 12th graders at Am Yisrael and other synagogues as well. It is important that Jewish educators work to integrate this topic into existing conversations, such as during holidays and on Shabbat. This also needs to be an ongoing conversation between families at dinner time and amongst friends, so that children grow up knowing what resources are available to take action, and that they are able to be a part of the solution as opposed to the problem. I hope that everyone can work to become more educated on how to be anti-racist and the importance of being an ally with people of color. I hope that people will get more involved within their own communities on how to be an anti-racist, and maybe even implement anti-racist programming at their own congregation. B'Tselem Elohim means that we are all created in the image of God. It's our job to make the world a better place by making sure we are all treated accordingly.
Hi, my name is Lauren Tapper, and I'm a sophomore at the University of Chicago Laboratory High Schools. One of the most defining conflicts of previous and current generations, as well as the Jewish community, is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The violence and conflict plaguing this region are the reason behind long-lasting regional instability, as well as a deep divide between the Jewish and Muslim communities. That's why for my impact project, I created a pantoum-style poem that brings together the identity of Jewish and Muslim youth from around the world. In a pantoum poem, every line is repeated twice, alternating with other lines, creating an interwoven effect that connects the poetry of all authors. Teens from around the world, including Israel, Palestine, and the United States, submitted lines of poetry about their identity based on prompts, including describing a place, food, experience, or trip that is a symbol of their culture. My hope for this poem is to bring together our communities through art, as well as foster an interfaith community built on shared understanding, connection, and identity. It was interesting to see how similar the lines of poetry submitted by Jewish and Muslim youth were. Although we come from different backgrounds and different faiths, so many of our values and fundamental beliefs are the same. It's important to recognize that without an equal and dedicated effort for both the Israeli and Palestinian community, we cannot and will not resolve the conflict in the Middle East. Thank you to Springboard, my advisor Hallie Shapiro, my parents, and to every poet that contributed lines to this poem. The project truly would not have been possible without you. I'm currently editing and finalizing the poem, and I'm confident that works of art like these are a first step towards bringing together Jewish, Muslim, Israeli, Palestinian, and American youth.
Hi, my name is Leah Seidman, and I am a senior at Highland Park High School. I am so grateful to have been selected as one of this year's 18 Under 18 honorees. My 18 Under 18 Impact Project will address an important topic within our community that I feel often doesn't get enough airtime, which is how teenagers connect to prayer and spirituality. In my experience, many of my friends and peers do not consider Jewish prayer an important part of their connection to Judaism or their Jewish identity. I will use my platform as an 18 Under 18 honoree to encourage the creation of more prayer education programs for Jewish teenagers in our community and to facilitate conversations about how Jewish teens can incorporate prayer into their daily lives. I will create and cultivate digital resources and share them on multiple social media platforms. By using the internet, I hope to target members of our community that have had untraditional Jewish upbringings or have been negatively affected by organized religious life or Jewish ritual. By creating more opportunities for prayer education, I hope to enhance the vitality of our Jewish teen community in Chicago and give back.
Hello, my name is Max Silverman, and I am a senior at Lane Tech High School. I am also the executive director and co-founder of Teens Be Heard, a teen-led organization that focuses on creating an engaged and empowered teen community to tackle social justice issues. My vision for the future is that youth will become increasingly involved and incorporated into society as we know it today. A huge barrier to progress over the years has been a lack of intergenerational conversation and communication. Also, the understanding that teens are affected by social justice issues. I hope that adults and older generations can start to see teens not as young and naive, but as equals. We all coexist together and are all tied to social justice issues in different ways. If adults and teens can begin to find ways to work together and effective methods of communication, we can all work together to create change that will be implemented stronger and quicker than ever before. This communication starts with listening and self-reflection. All of us, both teens and adults, need to work to eliminate the biases against each other in our minds. Let's be honest, neither teens nor adults want to listen to each other. It's human nature, but we need to start to push past those social norms and really see what each generation has to bring the other. I'm excited to see what will happen when we all collaborate together and break the barriers of age.
Hi, my name is Nathan Fruin, and I am a junior at Downers Grove South High School. For too long, post-traumatic stress disorder has been seen as something that only post-war veterans experience. That's not the case. According to a CDC study, 60% of adults have experienced trauma in their childhoods that affects them gravely throughout their lives. The stigma attached to PTSD is similar to the one that was and still is attached to mental illness as a whole. The only difference is that PTSD specifically is still so widely ignored. That's where my impact project comes in. Through a series of informational posts on social media, I plan to address the stigma attached to PTSD and educate those who may not know a lot about how difficult this condition can make people's lives. The goal of this project extends beyond just the narrow conversation of PTSD and non-veterans, though. I want people to take what they've learned from my project and use that throughout their lives. Nobody should ever feel like their emotions are invalid. Nobody should ever feel like they're alone in experiencing hardships, and no one should ever feel like the world is against them. Thank you.